Welcome back. We're discussing the Islamic movements of Southeast Asia and whether or not they could be a threat to America and global security or a bridge to better relations between the Islamic world and the West. I'm joined by Senator Christopher Bond, the ranking Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, who's with us from the U.S. Capitol, Dr. Robert Hefner, Director of the Institute on Culture, Religion and World Affairs at Boston University, from where he joins us, and Dr. Amitav Acharya, a Professor of International Relations at American University here in Washington, D.C. Senator, I realize, of course, it's a busy time for you. You may have to disappear any time now, so please let us have your comments.
Number one, they were asking, the question was raised whether this would work in Southeast Asia. Well, when one reads the book, one will find that the book speaks through the voices of people in Southeast Asia, government leaders, local leaders, military leaders, judges, teachers, lawyers, housewives who've lost their children by attacks on Muslims, as well as Muslim families who've lost their children in repressive actions by non-Muslim governments. Number two, I'm sorry if you don't like the title. The publisher chose the title thinking it would sell, because if you write a book and it doesn't sell, you don't get anywhere. And finally, the reason I wrote a book, because I had been making speeches on the Senate floor saying we need to pay more attention to Southeast Asia. I was there in Indonesia, at Banda Aceh, after the tsunami. The United States came in, did some wonderful things, but when the waters receded, so did U.S. interest. So my wife, who is a great critic of me, when I complained about it, said, nobody listens to what you say on the floor of the Senate. You have to write a book. So that's why I decided to write the book and make the point.
All right. Well, listen, Dr. Acharya, I want to ask you to answer an email we got from a viewer in Oakland, California, that came in from Abu Jamal Abdul in California, as I say. The reason behind the rise of Islamic movements is simple. It's a result of isolation, ignorance, and degrading behavior. It's also a reaction of so many attacks against Islam in the media and the lack of giving faithful Muslims the chance to govern and be in power. Now, the email is suggesting that it's the marginalization of Islam that triggers extremism, at least in some cases. How do you regard that idea?
Well, from the Southeast Asian point of view, it's also a question of governance. You look at Indonesia, and Professor Hefner can add to this. Some of the problems, the radicalization of the Muslims in Indonesia had to do with corruption, bad governance, including authoritarian rule during the Suharto regime. As you know, the radicalism in Islam is Islamic radicalism in Indonesia is declining. I mean, the Islamic parties are actually losing their votes, share of the votes. So I think if you open up a political system, give people a voice, build up the civil society, and of course Indonesia hasn't overcome all the problems of corruption, but governance is a very important factor.
And concept here, Dr. Hefner, is quite an important thing, the stereotyping and sort of perceptions and preconceptions. An email that came in from a viewer by the name of Adnan Inamusa says, Islam is a peaceful religion, but the image of Islam is tainted by the media. Muslims are labeled as terrorists and victimized for no reason at all in the name of the war against terror. Now, isn't that the whole portrayal of us and them and America and Islam and this kind of two sides part of the big problem, the stereotyping?
I think it is part of the big problem, and I think that's one of the reasons Southeast Asia does deserve more attention. The main political currents in the Muslim communities of Southeast Asia, particularly in Indonesia and Malaysia, but also to a significant degree in the Philippines. Southern Thailand is an exception here, but elsewhere the main political currents are democratic. They are civil and democratic. They are not necessarily in agreement with U.S. policy, not least of all in the Middle East, but that's a separate issue. The broader Muslim public across Southeast Asia has embraced the idea that Islam is compatible with democracy, and that's an idea that I think does need to get out to challenge stereotypes that emanate both from the media but also from certain public commentators.
We've just got a couple of minutes to go. I want to get, before I get back to the Senator... go ahead, Senator.
Let me just add one thing. It'd be very helpful to our cause if leaders from Muslim countries, wherever they are, would speak out against Al-Qaeda, Jemaah Islamiyah, and others who practice, I believe, a radical form of the Salafist wing of the religion, who kill innocent people both Muslim and non-Muslim. It would be helpful if they spoke out and said, Islam is a peaceful religion. We abhor and absolutely disown any of those activities. America needs to shape up its act, and that's what I'm working to do, but it would help if we had some more support from leaders in Muslim areas of the world as well.
All right, Ariane's on the line from the Netherlands. Thanks for your patience, Ariane. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Wes. Yeah, my question is to your guests, that what they do about the fact that Islam is rising from Asia. The Salafi movement is the strongest in Southeast Asia, and God will, they will start from there, their movement. And secondly, I have a comment to Mr. Senator, who has killed more people. Go and find out the truth about 9/11, and don't support the Zionist movement and those guys.
All right, Ariane, I'm going to get back to the centre in a second, but Dr. Acharya, this issue of the rising Islamists, you were indicating actually less support for Islamic parties in Southeast Asia.
Well, in Indonesia, the election results show that. Depending on how you count, in 1999, there was Islamic parties got 38% of the vote. In the last election, they got 26 or less than 26% of the vote. So obviously, that sort of extremist radicalization is not happening in Indonesia. And with democratization, that's a very positive trend.
Okay. Dr. Hefner, the issue of China being the giant in the region, shouldn't China be playing a bigger role here? I mean, we're saying America has to go across to the other side of the world to play a part. What about China?
Well, China's got a difficult situation because it's fighting an ethno-nationalist movement in Xinjiang province, which is, if you will, having a negative effect on its relations with the Muslim world, and also lessening its influence and the authority of its voice in Muslim Southeast Asia. So I think on matters of Islam in Southeast Asia, the Chinese are going to abstain from playing an active role, or they're going to be not particularly welcome.
Right. Senator, just literally less than a minute to go, I'm afraid, before we end the show, but a quick question to you. You end the book with a very strong comment about, I was just going to say, you end the book with a comment about nothing being really resolved if the Israeli-Palestinian situation isn't fixed. I mean, that almost preempts what you've said throughout the whole book.
Well, that's true, but let me answer your previous caller who said that, who seemed to indicate that there were not Al-Qaeda radical Islamists who were involved in 9/11. We've looked into that. That is absolute nonsense. We have looked in that and we have done the research. There's no question who killed them. Now, we need to work with the governments of Southeast Asia because they don't want to be dominated by China on economics.
Well, unfortunately, we've hit our problem with time, and thank you very much for joining us, Senator Bond.
Thank you.
Dr. Hefner and Dr. Acharya. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Remember, you can follow the show on Facebook and see what we're up to there. You can give us your feedback on the show and post your questions and comments. On the next show, governments and companies around the world are acquiring Africa's lush farmlands at a startling rate. Should the direct foreign investment be welcomed or feared as a new form of colonialism? We'll see you next time.